Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews for Writers. Today, we're going to be dissecting this book from a writer's perspective and give some advice to any writers out there that are looking to improve their craft. My name is Diego Peñate. I am a writer working on my debut novel and a couple more surprises for later this year. Today's book is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book of the original Mistborn trilogy. The first book is The Final Empire. This is the second one, The Well of Ascension. So, word of caution, there will be spoilers. I tried my best planting, so I didn't have to go into details and spoil the book, but I don't think I can do that. I'm not intelligent enough. So, if you haven't read the books, I suggest you go back and read the books and stay tuned for a different there will be spoilers. So, I'm gonna cut to the chase. I did not like this book. Did not like it. I tried. I finished the book. It's, I guess, probably one of the few books I wanted to throw to the wall at the end of the book. So let me break that down a little bit more. I should preface my not liking this book with saying that I loved the first book of the Mistborn series, The Final Empire, one of my favorite books of all time. Brandon Sanderson is great. It was one of the first books I read of him, and I was completely in love from the start. Maybe it's because I had so high expectations from the first book that this second book really crashed on me. So the first book, it was the story of being from being no one, being an Orkin, to being this great character at the end. The first book is a haste book. You know what I'm saying about. There is all this planning, all this introduction of the characters. It was the first time I got introduced to the magical system from Mr. Sanderson. Absolutely great. I loved all the fighting sequences. I think he does that really good. All the action, all the beats. You are really into all the important parts of the narrative. Other things that work great on the first book, all the antagonists, all the villains. You have this level, you have these different characters, you had this greater than life main villain. All that worked great. At the end of the first book, I was super happy. Being our main character, she's absolutely great, and she got a great ending of the first book. She was really a very different person from the. So now jumping to the second book, I think the expectations were so high from the first book that the second book didn't live up to them. And my main issue is that there were a lot of broken promises on the second book. So one of the main promises that were broken, this second book was supposed to be, for my point of view, when I read it, the characters were all set to go and look for the Well of Ascension. So I thought it was going to be a journey book. So the first one was a haste. This is a journey book. We're going to go in a journey. We're going to look at new places. We're going to expand from the setting that we have. On that did not happen. The characters start the book preparing for the journey, and that keeps getting delayed, and it keeps getting delayed. So I became impatient. I read through, I powered through some of the sections, thinking they're gonna go. At some point they're gonna go and they're gonna start the journey, and it takes a lot of time. It takes, I think, it's like the third part of the book, almost the last quarter of the book, where they actually get out of the city, and I say, well, better later than never. But then I think the next chapter, they actually return to the city. So yes, it's not a journey book at all, which I felt it was breaking the promise of what the book was supposed to be about. So then the second promise that was broken is who was gonna be the main character. And the main character in the first book, it was Bean. Um, some other characters, but Bean ended up being the obvious character on the first book. So on the second book, I don't know, like the character, the who's the main character shifts completely, and shift completely to Ellen Venture, who was just kind of a support character on the first book. And so you start doing the second book, and Ellen becomes now your main character somehow out of the blue. And so, my main issue with Ellen is that I wasn't invested in him, not on the through the entire first book, and it felt that everything that he got on the second book was not deserved. From the start, I think, Bean let Ellen be the king. Yeah, so that was an earn. And then he starts slowly just gaining skills that have no rhyme and reason on how to get them. I think there is a point where he fights a troll, and I think it just in a span of a few months or even a few weeks, he gets skilled enough to be able to defeat that troll, which completely felt out of place. And if you know at the end of the book what's the big twist at the very end of the book, that also I'm not gonna tell you that spoiler, but that also was not deserved. So yes, from being this great character, now the second book seemed to focus completely on Ellen. And going back to the promise about this book not being about a journey, it was not only that. So instead of us getting a journey, then the book was pretty much Ellen. They had three armies surrounding the city. So he was going and talk with one of the armies, then go back, some stuff happens, go talk to the second army, then talk to the third army. And in the middle of all that, there were, I don't know how many council sessions. So instead of us going on an adventure and looking at new places, new interesting things, there was a lot of political discussion, a lot of talk by a character that was not supposed to be the main character. But then, Bean was always there, and that's also a difficult thing with having different POVs, point of views within a book. There is one character that probably you don't like. In this case, the main character that I wanted to actually continue reading about was Bean, and she got a very reduced plot. Now she did have an interesting plot, and there was another Mistborn that came into the mix that hinted to be a love interest for Bean, and that was pretty interesting, and that was keeping my attention to trying to power through this book. And then that did not pay out. That subplot that actually was the most interesting part was kind of grabbed in a very happy sappy ending for Ellen and Bean, and I think there was a very missed opportunity on that part. The very few chapters that these characters spent together, I thought they were the best on the book. So anyway, those are my 2 cents. It wasn't the book that was promised. It wasn't the journey. It wasn't the character that was promised. It wasn't about Bean. It was all about Ellen, and it wasn't anything that Ellen got was an earn. Now I know what people say and say all that makes sense because if you read the third book, it's part of the plot and whatnot. I did not read the third book, but I did read the spoilers, and I know what the story goes and what's the payout. I don't think that's enough. Even so, maybe, Brandon Sanderson is big enough, he's a genius enough that you can forgive him for something like this and then have faith and go to the third book and reading. I think if you're a writer and if you lose your reader on your book, you cannot make it up saying the next book, everything is going to be explained. You have to do that. You have to keep the attention on the book that you are reading at the moment. Like I say, a lot of people love this series. I love the first book. The second book I couldn't get through. So anyway, let me know if any of these resonates with you. If you think I'm right or I'm wrong, just let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.